Hi all, let's continue our evolution of style series and have a look at the very last game of Alexander Alekhine. Alekhine's last match was with a player called Francisco Lupi, a Portuguese master. It was played near Lisbon, Portugal in January 1946, so this is a year after the official end of the Second World War. In this match, Alekhine won 2 games, lost 1 and drew 1. After World War II, he had not been invited to chess tournaments outside the Iberian Peninsula because of his alleged Nazi affiliation. His original invitation to the London 1946 tournaments was withdrawn when the other competitors protested. While planning for a World Championship match against Botvinnik, Alekhine died in his hotel room in Estoril, Portugal on March 24th, 1946. So that's 2 months after this game. So this is his last apparent game against Lupi. He was playing black here. Lupi played e4 and Alekhine played e5. After knight f6, after knight f3, we have knight f6, the Petrov defense, but on the solid side. After knight c3, very interesting response. Usually knight c6 is played, but Alekhine played the second most popular move, bishop b4. White now took on e5 and black castled. Black has some dynamic play for the pawn here. And the usual move for white is apparently bishop e2. I have 228 games in live book with that, or knight d3. White actually played d3 here, very rare, and this allowed Alexander Alekhine to continue energetically with d5. So already threatening d4, white can't carry on so easily. So white tried to kick the bishop with a3. He's losing a bit of time though on development, and he's losing his pawn back now after bishop takes, c3 check, b takes, rook e8. Black's going to get his pawn back after f4, d takes e4. White plays d4, so equal on pawns again, but white has not really had a very good opening here. There's a passed pawn here, this bishop's blocked in. White hasn't managed to castle yet, and worse is to come. Now knight d5 threatens c3, and also queen h4 check is quite useful potentially. White now plays c4, and the knight improves the position with knight e7, so threatening to jump to f5 to hit d4, and then queen h4 will be much more effective because the knight will be able to play knight takes g3 on g3. And we see this now, bishop e2, knight f5, so hitting d4 with queen h4 as well. White protects the d4 pawn, but now forfeits castling rights after check. White doesn't want to play g3, knight takes g3 is nice for white. So king f1 was played, e3 threatening mate on the spot, queen e1, and black is winning a pawn now. Of course, queen takes f4 check, king g1. So a pawn up with the king unable to castle. Can you see what Alexander Alekhine played here? If I give you 10 seconds to pause the video. Okay, quite crushing move. Knight takes d4. There's a loose piece here, and this knight will be loose after this. C takes, queen takes, so hitting both of the loose pieces. Rook b1, queen takes e5. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. A lot of pawns up. Bishop b2, queen f5. Looking at the rook moves. White really is in a bad state here. Of course, knight c6. The queen tied down to f2 as well. Rook d5. The queen now goes to c2, hitting the bishop. The bishop drops back. Bishop f5. With bishop e4 now on the cards as well. This is going to be improving black's position. Bishop d1 was played, which doesn't help white at all, because now after queen b1, dual threats of e2 and taking the bishop, white resigned here. Now, Alekhines' legacy, let's talk about that from the evolution of style perspective. His peak period, and notes from Wiki here, I've made use of. Wiki is an excellent resource actually for all the famous players basically in the evolution of style series. His peak period is in the early 1930s, where he won almost every tournament he played, sometimes by huge margins. After his play declined, he never won a top class tournament after 1934. So those are the peak years, between the early 1930s and 1934. After Alekhine regained his world title in 1937, there were several new contenders, all of whom would have been serious challengers, so especially like Botvinnik, if that match had been arranged. Arguably, he's one of the greatest attacking players, and could produce combinations at will almost. What set him apart from other attacking players was his ability to see the potential for an attack and prepare for it in positions where others saw nothing. Others regarded him, for example, like Rudolf Spillman, a master tactician, said he could see the combinations as well as Alekhine, but he couldn't get the same positions. So it's getting the positions in place for those combinations, which Alekhine excelled at as well. Max Erver said, Alekhine is a poet who creates a work of art out of something that would hardly inspire another man to send home a picture postcard. So, Reti indicates he beats opponents by analysing simple and apparently harmless sequences of moves in order to see whether at some time or another, at the end of it, of an original possibility, and therefore one difficult to see, might be hidden. An original possibility might be hidden at the end of it. John Nunn commented, Alekhine had a special ability to provoke complications without taking excessive risks. Edward Winter called him the supreme genius of the complicated position. Some of Alekhine's combinations are so complex that even modern champions and contenders disagree in the analysis of them. Garry Kasparov indicated that Alekhine's attacking play was based on solid positional foundations. Harry Golombek went further, saying Alekhine was the most versatile of all chess geniuses, being equally at home in every style of play and in all phases of the game. Reuben Fine, a serious contender for the World Championship in the late 1930s, wrote in the 1950s that Alekhine's collection of best games was one of the three most beautiful that he knew, and Golombek was equally impressed. Alekhine's games have a higher percentage of wins than those of other world champions, and his drawn games are on average among the longest of all champions, so his desire to win extended beyond formal chess competition. When Fine beat him, for example, in some casual games in 1933, Alekhine demanded a match for a small stake. And in table tennis, which Alekhine played enthusiastically but badly, he would often crush the ball when he lost. Bobby Fischer, in a 1964 article, ranked Alekhine as one of the 10 greatest players in history. But he was famous for the clarity of play. Fischer was famous for his own clarity of play and wrote that Alekhine had never been a hero of his, and he never cared for his style of play. There was nothing light or breezy about it. It worked for him, but it could scarcely work for anyone else. He played gigantic conceptions, full of outrageous and unprecedented ideas. He had great imagination. He could see more deeply into a situation than any other player in chess history. It was in the most complicated positions that Alekhine found the grandest concepts. Alekhine's style had a profound influence on Garry Kasparov, who said, Alekhine is the first luminary among others who are still having the greatest influence on me. I like his universality, his approach to the game, his chess ideas. I am sure the future belongs to Alekhine chess. In 2012, Levon Aronian said that he considers Alekhine the greatest chess player of all time. So Alekhine had a profound influence and legacy on are on all the future generations of players, it seemed. And this is not the end for the series to look at Alekhines games, especially in the peak periods. I think it would be nice to revisit those tournaments which he slaughtered the opposition heavily. I hope you enjoyed a bit this final game, looking at this final game. Obviously, still Alekhine was a great player, even at this point. Okay, comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.